had to look it up. And
Maybe so.
there's a tree, I can't even, but you haven't seen that. Yeah.
6 days a week. Yeah,
I thought I saw you walking in this Sunday.
yeah. Today I went to the dentist, the chiropractor, Walgreens for the shots. D and W, Flex Watch. Trash,
The dollar store?
Keller's office.
Oh, no, you didn't go to the dollar
Okay,
store.
guys, 5:30. I'm Rachel. Do we have anybody online today? Okay. Great, let's adjourn the meeting at 5:30. This is our October 8th Parks Board meeting. Thank you all for coming. It's fun to see people out there today. Glad you can make it, Kristen. Yeah, good. Okay, Rachel, would you like to call roll?
Richard Swarthout.
Here.
Scott Reese.
Here.
Dan Mulder.
Here.
Sarah McLean. Here. Jerry Monkey. Here.
Good, we have a quorum. Okay, minutes from last month. Everybody read them, make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Minutes are approved. Let's see, Rachel, do we have any board communications this month? Okay. Ooh, this could be a quick one. Public comments from anybody not having to do with something that's on our today. Okay. Did anybody get a chance to go to Fall Fest this weekend?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw people down there, kids on the trail, kids painting pumpkins.
Yeah.
The lighthouse. We had lighthouse tours.
Yeah. Oh,
There were
yeah.
lots of funerals, lighthouse tours, fall fest, there was
Wedding.
weddings, yeah. It was a good weekend for all events. though.
Beautiful weather.
It's gorgeous. Okay, let's move on to our discussion items. First up is the Fall Fest recap. Rachel, do you want to?
Oh,
Keep
it
it
was
up
another
here.
successful fall fest. The weather was about 72 degrees and sunny. Got
That's nice.
a little breezier throughout the day, but nothing tragic. We did get really heavy winds Saturday evening into Sunday. There was no damage to the Parker supplies. But there could have been. We were fairly lucky with 43-mile-per-hour winds. To put that in
Was the
perspective.
straw all over the place? or-
No, I don't know if it was protected from the point. The beach was a wreck. Like umbrellas were broken. The water line was way down. You could tell like the sand had like been pushed up. To give you any idea, my motorcycle was blown over and that's 600 pounds. So it was pretty strong wind Saturday evening. I contacted Mike Johnson like first thing Sunday morning and I was like, is everything still there? And he was like, yes, and it's fine. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
I saw a boat beach.
There's a boat down by.
Down Wheatwood,
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
don't,
somebody's boat.
Yeah.
The mooring, but I understand there's no damage to the boat. Luckily.
They were really.
so everything looked good there.
This is nice to document, Rachel,
Yeah.
from year to year.
And then activities, we had caramel apples again. We ordered approximately 150. It was like 150, 160 in the barrels. We could have probably done 100. It seemed when it was over, there were about 40 to 50 left over that we gave away to participants. Pumpkin painting, it was again really popular, one of the most popular stations. We ordered 165 pumpkins and we had about 40 left over, which is surprising because usually years we don't have any left over, like maybe 10 or something like that. There are still some in the park.
Would we keep it at 160?
Yeah, according to other years, I'd probably keep it at 160. The donut contest, this was the most surprising to me. So we ordered 200 donuts and we had an entire box left. You're welcome, DPW. And this was not consistent, yeah, with previous years. Usually we run out of those donuts and we had a really good amount of people. Like, I mean, we probably guessed like 400 throughout the whole day. So I would stay consistent with the donuts too, probably like to 150, maybe go to 150 and then order more because Johan seemed okay with that process.
Did they all have holes in them?
Yeah, they were all correct. And like I said, it was a beautiful day and it was busy. It did seem, and we can kind of talk about this in our discussion, that due to the weather being nicer, it almost felt like Dan and I spoke about this a bit, less kids and more adults, and they stayed longer. Like I noticed a lot of people, like all the picnic tables were full and people kind of hung out throughout the day. So that felt a little different. The budget, so we spent our $3,500 about on the event, which you figure if we had 400 participants, that's a pretty good budget for that event. What worked and where can we improve? So activities, do we want to add more? Do we want to take away? Do we have all the supplies we needed? Did we feel like we were prepared at each table? Set up and take down the corn stalks. So next year, we're either gonna have to ask the supplier if they can remove the corn, or we're gonna have to have more help the Friday before, because it took Dana and I like a solid 2 hours to remove all the corn off those corn
Yeah,
stalks. Because if we don't, the geese, it's like Hitchcock
Well, we had to
film.
remove them and
Right.
DPW. wanted
Horrible.
stuff too.
Yeah, so, but all the corn did go to the deer park. And all the straw has been removed to Kiwanis. So
I'd like to add one more thing up there
Yeah.
is the parks table. I thought was good.
Yeah,
I thought the posters were good, and when people came to get cider, they kind of had to look at them,
Yeah.
so.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then the volunteer report time. I know every year, like, we have 20 minutes left and we're always like, oh my gosh, or like a half hour. But it seems like it always falls, once they get there, they just get in a rhythm and then everything's taken care
I
of.
didn't see any pictures. Did somebody dress as a scarecrow?
No, I know, I noticed as soon as Anna was there, she was our scarecrow from last year, but I'm kind of glad she wasn't a scarecrow, because she was one of the returning members who had done the event before. So she was super helpful with donuts, like keeping that station going.
And the two girls on.
But we do have that outfit, so next year I want to get back, because I said something to Dana at the event as soon as I saw Anna. And those are some pictures. Everyone looks happy. And yeah, so we can open it up to discussions of what we liked, what we want to see change. All of that.
Want to kick off, Scott?
Yes, somebody asked me, if we could have more events for older people like myself, who is a super senior. And so I came up with a few ideas just to throw out there. We could have a row of rocking chairs along the water. Looking out on the water. We could rent, I'm sure we can rent white rocking chairs. And then I think what we could do is have a shuffleboard court built by the wood shop at the high school. And it could be in, temporary, and just put it on the sidewalk where it's level. And that could be an idea that seniors may like. And then I saw a picture of the tractor and the photo op this year. And in previous, I wasn't able to attend, but I will attend next year. I'll take the day off work. In the past, I was there, I took many, many photographs, but this year there was nobody attending it. And so kids were climbing all over the tractor and it wasn't set up as good. I think we put a tripod and we put up a yard sign that says photo op, and you work it. And that way a lot of the adults and seniors will get their picture taken. So I am volunteering to do that next year. And the other thing is there could be entertainment like a magician or a juggler that may be interesting to older adults. And then if we could have a fitness class for seniors, a small circle where people like me that can't raise their arms, can do a little bit of stretching or something. And then I think if we had a senior card table with euchre, it may be popular if the wind isn't 40 miles an hour. And then I would say I had a couple of people say that they thought the music was not the best. And maybe we could bring the city band that seems to be popular with the senior people. I don't know the exact name, but you know who I mean. They come with the trailer. What's the name? Community band, correct. That maybe we could have the community band, and that would appeal to, the older adults that are around.
I had a different take on the music. I love them. I think they're great and it's really good toe tap tapping music and people were dancing, you know, I was wondering if it would be fun to get like Susie Cartwright to, do like a little line dancing demo or something like that. You know, we have active seniors. You know, I don't think I'm a senior, not quite a senior, but,
I know.
I wouldn't go sit in a rocking chair. No offense, but,
I wouldn't mind.
yeah, but I'd try line dancing.
I enjoyed the music. They played a
Yeah.
lot of oldies.
Yeah, something for everybody.
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
I have a couple thoughts. You wanna go first? No, you can go. Okay, I like the idea of the line dancing. I think there's a person out of the Indian River, one of the, I think it's one of the churches over there who also calls line dancing with quite the
Oh,
following.
you did this.
It was so fun.
Good.
So I would encourage, I mean, that would be something silly and fun, and I can see my kids getting into that. I felt that the tractor was too far away from the event, that people didn't recognize that it was even there as a photo op opportunity because it was kind of past, there was a long line for food, which was good, but people didn't really recognize that it was over there in the corner. I don't necessarily have a suggestion on where a better place to put it unless you're gonna move caramel apples, or if you want to put it by the, I don't know, you'd have to kind of reconfigure, but I felt like it was too far away. And I also think next year we should maybe pair or see if the chamber wants to bring their skeleton walk brochures to the event. Because if people are coming from out of town, it's just another thing to do. And I think we might get more returning people too if they come hang out for a little bit, go take a skeleton walk, come on back. I think a good idea. And then I suggested this to Rachel earlier, but face painting, something different.
Janie, what have you got?
I don't have much. I mentioned to Dana the other day, it might be fun whenever you go to like Pond Hill or any of the farms around here, they have the wooden cutout where you stick your head and there's an animal. Like, I feel like that's really popular. And it would be a pretty easy thing, I think, to add.
And then reuse every year.
Yeah, and then reuse every year. And to add maybe to Sarah's skeleton walk, we could create some kind of like scavenger hunt, or I mean, it would take a little bit of time and we'd have to know what skeletons were coming out, but if you like led them around in like a little fun path, I think that would be fun for adults and children. But otherwise, I think it was great. I did see on social media, like, and Funny Helping Hands, that there was a classroom looking for small pumpkins.
I saw that too.
Yeah, I'm sure they already got them, but maybe if we have some left, we can see if any classrooms here want them.
Our leftovers went to the middle school. One of the
Okay.
volunteers, her mom was the principal at the
perfect.
local middle school. So we went there. To paint, I'm assuming to paint.
And I have pictures, Rachel. Let's see, this I don't have a picture of. We were just discussing, it's really easy to have Small Batch do the hot dogs and they're fabulous. But, you know, we could consider doing that like as a moneymaker for parks to help subsidize the cost of Fall Fest. Get the really good hot dogs, of course, and we could have a suggested donation, I guess, maybe.
Or is that something that we could partner with and say if proceeds of the profit goes to parks if we were to do Small Batch again?
I don't know which you do that.
They charge an extra $1 and then.
I can't speak for her
Yeah.
Yeah.
now, but, you know, I will say when I passed out the flyers around town, that there were some people that would not put the flyer out because it had other businesses' logos as sponsors.
What was their reasoning?
They didn't want to promote competitive businesses.
That's weird. Why don't we talk about it again in the fall, like,
Yeah.
you know,
So maybe
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you
with
did
plenty of time.
a couple big posters, or maybe at each of the station have another yard sign that you could put thanks to our sponsors on.
There was thanks to the sponsors on the Facebook post.
I mean, sponsor can mean so many things.
Yeah, you're right.
Technically, we didn't get a deal from,
Anyone?
I mean, Bill's Farm Market gives us a really good deal. So they're technically, I would consider them a sponsor for sure. Justin Tippett, who gives us a straw, he does that specifically for us. We pay for it, but that's also a pretty good deal to make sure we get it from one supplier and it's local. Harbor Market, they donate those apples. Ronaldo's donate those mums. You know, the other things like Johans this year, that technically they weren't a sponsor. The only reason those logos were on that flyer is because they were hosting that run. So I wanted the people to know that that was separate, like that's not,
How was the participation in front?
I don't know.
I didn't see.
I didn't see that many people. I'd have to ask them. Reach out to
I don't
them
think it
later.
hurt anything, but.
Yeah. But it was kind of like, so they were kind of off in their corner. So maybe what we do next year is we define what a sponsor is and we leave a lot of people off because some things we're just buying. And that is what it is. We're utilizing their business and we're purchasing them. It doesn't make them a sponsor. Technically. So I think that's what we have to reevaluate for next year is we just sharpen what a sponsor is for the event.
Okay.
But
I just love action stuff, so I think it'd be really fun to, do something a little crazier with, Star Mountain next year. Like this is a different slide than we looked at last year, but it seems like it'd be so easy to do and maybe, you know, again, get Lucas on it and see what he can figure out. And then I didn't put this picture in, but, last year there was a picture of straw bales with like, I don't know if they're like 12 by 1 foot boards between them. So you could have kind of a ziggy zaggy, like almost obstacle course the kids could do. Let's see, face painting you talked about. Straw maze, but I don't think we have enough room for that. Be cool. And then I don't really know what that pyramid's about, but it looked. All right, next one. Rachel and I had talked about, would it be fun to get kind of a seasonal bounce house or something like that?
Maggie said the school has one, didn't she? Maybe we could reach out.
They have like
school.
3.
Yeah, maybe we could reach out to the school and ask.
And then that is pumpkin bowling. I don't know if you use pumpkins or not. We could kind of experiment, but the chamber for sure has bowling pins, right? That could be something fun and different.
Do you have some too? Found them at Kiwanis.
So all this we can talk about again in the fall, but just to get people thinking. And then I had what I think is a great idea is let's put that tractor to work and get somebody with a hay bale thing and let's do hay rides around town.
I don't know, because that's not my tractor. Oh, you're not talking about the antique tractor.
No, just
Yeah,
like
just,
that could be a DPW tractor, it could be a landscaper. I think it'd be fun, you know. Give some.
The farmer's
people
market does that for their event. I could ask Hannah. Pretty sure they do, right? I'm not imagining.
They have a horse, I think.
Yeah,
The farmer's market does?
yeah, they
Oh,
do
I didn't
hay
know.
rides. Their fall festus this weekend, I believe.
We can talk about it again in the fall.
Yeah.
And then what if we had Fall Fest and food truck rally? So food truck rallies get a lot of people. And I don't know what the merchants in town would have to say about that, but
Only 2 things to think about when we do that is the city has very strict rules on where food trucks can be located. Not saying that's impossible, but just we would have to keep that in mind and
we have to
investigate
get
our options.
permission,
The
yeah.
second thing would be food trucks take up a lot of parking. So if you think about if you have a 72 beautiful day with a funeral going on and weddings going on and a farmer's market going on, you're not only gonna take up a spot, you're gonna take up a spot next to it, for people to come to that food. You're gonna probably have to block up a portion of the parking lot. Again, a really good idea. I'd love big food truck.
Yeah, unless
person.
we had them
But-
park on the grass.
I think it's a good idea, but I think there's already so much going on with the farmer's market that I think it would have to be something we did when the farmer's market isn't going on.
But I think
It'd be a
Maybe
fun
a
event.
different event.
Yeah,
the food truck rally would be a great, just separate event in itself. I'll write it down.
Right. So I'm gonna suggest some fun ideas, but how about if we revisit this? And then when do we talking about Fall Fest on our calendar? Like a few months,
August,
a few
yeah.
months in advance, yeah. So I don't think we have to like boil it down at this meeting, but
I like the idea of, yeah, what you created.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I think they're all still simple things to add, which is nice, like all the ideas that were given.
I just don't want it to get boring, like it's the same stuff
Yeah,
every year.
no, I agree. I think it's a really nice list to work, even if we added 2 of these things, that would be nice, so.
Okay, great, excellent. Shall we move on then to old business, the Shea Park site plan?
Could we have public comment?
Oh, I'm
first?
sorry.
No, just sure.
Anything in
Fall
Fall
Fest.
Fest? Good idea, thank you, Vice Chairman.
Hold on, it's not wanting to load. Unless I'm just not. in the right spot.
Just zoomed in too far, right?
Just a little bit of background while Rachel's keeping this up. This is something we've been talking about for really all year in Parks Board and then
It should have in your packet.
Yeah.
yeah. Your packet isn't coming through.
It's not, but I saved it just in case this happened. Here we go.
Good.
Okay.
So just background again, this is something we've been talking about all year. The AHA arrived and then plans for the Shea locomotive and what can we do to make this look intentional and not like we're just dropping things in the park. A way to connect them visually. And when we talked about, I couldn't find my handout, but like the goals, our goals for Shea Park, one of the top ones was to just celebrate our history. So I think this provides some good opportunities for here. So just to orient you first. Up at the top, we have Main Street, we have Judd, we have Bay Street. The AHA is here, locomotive is here. The yellow, the brown, green things are trees that we all know now. Yep. And just to remind people about a few of our kind of guiding principles on parks. Green space is good. Simple is often the best. It's good to start slow and build on things rather than putting everything all at once. What am I missing, Rachel? Yeah. And just that we kind of have a light touch in the parks. We don't have a heavy hand and we don't concentrate a lot on landscape. So all that said, then we start down with the Shea locomotive. So this is the footprint for the pavilion and then underneath it is the locomotive. And then we felt that this was going to be really tight if you had a group of people in there. So we bumped it out another 5 feet. So it's now 10 feet from the locomotive all the way around. And how to connect it to circulation, we've got a walk here. This probably will take more discussion, but I think it would be so useful to continue the sidewalk along Bay Street. And eventually consider a crosswalk so that there's a way to get over to Ford Park as well. There's a dream on Parks Board and also on Harbor Commission to have a way to connect all the parks eventually. Okay, so big green space, trees, some trees in good places, some trees in kind of bizarre places. So the big trees are the 2 down on Bay Street here, maples, and the 2 maples that are up on Main Street. Main Street is complicated because there's overhead wires. So that means any trees we would put in as part of the street tree plan are gonna be small. So I like this idea of trees in the park, kind of along Main Street there. Then this was a tree board project a number of years ago before my time on tree board. There ended up all these trees you see here, trees down here, trees across here, and trees, this is actually like 30 feet in from the property line. You could see little X's here, trees there. So what this doesn't affect, it's nice along here, but it does kind of block views into the park. So one suggestion to talk about is removing one of the trees up on Main Street to have a better view into the park, as well as possibly access with a stair there.
I would agree with that too, because I think the view into the park is important.
I do too, yeah. So, I know we talk about the stairs more in a minute. I think the trees along, Judd are fine, except for this last one here. My idea is that we just take out 1, 2, 3 trees that were put in. So that whether you're on Bay Street or on Judd Street, you just have a great view shed right to the locomotive.
Replant, not removing them. Yeah.
Okay, so, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Rachel. Yeah. We are in desperate need of trees at Harbor View Park. The rest of the dying trees came out last week and it's looking pretty bare up there. So that's my recommendation, is that we move these 3 trees. And then coming over to this side, these are the 3 trees in the park. This is the property line here between the park and Demers. So this is Demers Landscaping and the park. That we've got 3 trees here. We have hydrangeas. This is a cedar hedge up there. So one thing Rachel and I talked about is long-term, we might want to see how this is doing at containing people from the park and not going in the driveway, that we might want to do something along here as well. And this is like a view through to the big house. So picking up on the history of logging in Harbor Springs, white pine was one of the main species that was logged. These are actually columnar white pines, because big white pines would be like that. So just it could be a setting for interpretive signage about logging. Then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees here. 30 feet in from the property line. I don't know what the notion was and why they ended up there. But what it does is breaks up this nice big open space here. So I'd like to propose that those get moved as well. So that I'll point out 2 trees that I think could be a little more up for discussion and whether we move them or not. One is, this is a tulip tree here, which is a beautiful tree. It's gonna get as big or bigger than these. So if you can imagine the canopy, these are like the mature canopy on these trees. So it's gonna be something like that. So it's only gonna hide part of the locomotive, but maybe it provides some shade. Yeah. So that could be up for grabs. I don't know. Should we just talk about things as we go?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the other one, oh, this is another tulip tree here. So again, this would be something like this. So you could say to yourself, well, that creates kind of a nice shady corner.
Yeah, and that's more mature, because it's not real big right now. That first one of that line.
Yes, yeah, right. That was one of the newer trees that was put in. So those are 2 trees to talk more about. And then also the one that we would take up by the potential staircase. Other things that are important on this plan is I was lucky enough to go to the park when the Shea Days tent was there and also when the book festival tents were there. So these are not buildings, don't panic. This is the footprint of the book festival tent. This is the footprint of the Shea Days tent. So when we think about putting together a site plan, we think about what we need today and how things might be organized and all of that, but we also have to think about like what potential things might come down the road. We don't know if we're gonna do them. The decisions we make today might impact those things. So where is that going with that?
Placement.
The open, so the open space, keeping the open space open. And again, back to one of our main principles on parks is we love green space.
It's also important to note that this is phased. So does anyone have questions about the process of how this will come to fruition, the steps that I have in the packet? Like how we'll take Dana's plan, we'll take it to a firm, an engineer, we'll work through it, come up with more visuals. Then we'll take it to planning commission for review. Like that's the process of this. So the reason we have, so what the planning commission asked is attached the locomotive and the AHA. That's what they specifically wanted us to do. So that's the first phase, along with the steps. If we like the steps, whether they're donated or not is irrelevant. Do we like the steps or not? The path coming off the steps towards the playscape area would be a phase 2, but we're putting it in there because we're taking it to an engineer and we don't want to take it to an engineer and the planning commission twice. So you might as well take the vision of the park and the master plan and get it all approved at once. So if 5 years down the road, when we do our parks plan, and we say, you know, downtown could use another small playground, downtown, you know, this is what we put in. So this is saying this is absolutely everything we would ever do in that park.
You won't be doing anything until the train comes.
Correct.
Yeah.
It'd be a spring project.
So let's talk about circulation. And actually, I would like to say that at parks, we talked about connecting those two elements long before it ever was discussed at council.
Yeah.
So we have the hardscape around the train, the ways to connect here. And then how to connect these two items visually. So I think first of all, I think it's really nice to have like a way to walk there. These are the two signs that are there now. I think it's nice to have a little garden as a backdrop for interpretive signage, like a little walk down history lane about from Shea. Everything's kind of square. I like the idea of it curving instead of just straight lines. This whole idea of the stair, we hadn't really gotten that far, but came up and was suggested by Mr. Demmer. And there's something we'll talk about more tonight is it strictly necessary or is that a phase 2 item? We don't do it right away. Where does that little walk go? And then longer term, let's say this is an area that could be, you know, some type of play area, maybe a playscape or something like that. This footprint, by the way, is the same size as what's at City Beach. And that went in, and I think nobody was too freaked out. I think they were kind of surprised how small it was. And there's some visuals in that handout that show you, you know, if we did want to highlight logging, there's some great kind of playscape elements that actually pick up on that. So let's say this is here. How do you get to it if you have a stroller? So then there's the whole ADA thing. Somebody's with a walker or in a wheelchair, you know, how do they get around the park? So to me, that would be the advantage of at some point completing the loop, connecting down here, a great way to get here with a stroller, or, you know, if we have more interpretive stuff over here, a way for folks that are not mobile to get over there. Yes, should we take input first or?
I want to do it like this. So I want the board discussion to be phase 1. Because that's what we really need is phase 1. That's what I need to hear is what are we doing this spring? Then we'll open it up to talk about phase 2, because we also need to look at that this evening, because that's what ultimately will be taken to the firm. I think we should focus on them separately, because one's 10 years or maybe never, and one is spring. So
So let's define what phase 1 might be. So this is what's gravelled out right now. Do we want this sidewalk as part of phase one? The sidewalk along Bay Street?
I don't think it's necessary for phase one.
Isn't there still discussion on what's happening with Bay Street too? Like,
That's
is there gonna be, so I would also suggest phase two for
Okay.
that.
It could also be free. Doesn't happen. Or
I
when
mean,
Ford
when
Park,
we're talking, can I ask clarification? No, we're talking about phase one, phase two. Phase one, is this already in our capital improvements? Like, how is this?
so
Okay,
this is already like,
I
it's
just
just
need
be
to remember the
funded.
dates of everything.
Yes,
Okay.
phase one is funded and like,
And
it's
so
happening.
phase two would be a capital improvement project later.
correct.
Okay,
So
so like
we
some
do
of the
our-
things that we've
Yes. so
put
we
in
do-
there that maybe aren't happening.
Yeah.
This could replace some of those.
Correct. So we
Okay.
do our Parks Master Plan every 5 years. So when we redo our Parks Master Plan, we would send out a survey and let's say playgrounds, like number
Like the last
one
survey
for
that
the
we sent out.
ones, yes. And we said, well, this is the best spot to put a playground. If
Mhm.
we're gonna put a second one downtown, we already have it spot, doesn't mean we have to put one there.
Right.
But we have a plan.
Yeah.
Right, so.
So phase one then, this, not this. I think this is an important part. The stairs, phase one, phase two. I say
phase
one, I say one.
I say phase one.
Or
But my question is then to the board, do we want the stairs no matter what?
I think that's what we're saying.
I like the stairs.
I do like the stairs. As a parks director, I like opening the park up to Main Street, whether it's funded through the city or private.
It just feels like a bunch of wasted space to me on the hill. And people don't access it from there. It's an opportunity to access it.
Okay, so this stair, this garden, maybe the garden around here, and then a sign down here. Is that a good phase one? And then maybe new picnic table, site furniture, that kind of thing.
Sign it.
yeah, I think a picnic table site thing for phase one.
Okay,
I have a comment. How much cement is going around the locomotive pavilion?
5 feet that will be underneath. This is the overhead structure of the pavilion.
Right.
And 5 feet outside of that,
So 10
you have-
feet, 10 feet
10 feet.
wide of
But
cement.
let's say you
around.
have like a classroom of kids that are coming from the school. Those kids aren't gonna be able to,
10 feet is too much.
Maybe it's a lot. Kristen, what's your thought on it?
So,
10 feet is a lot.
yes,
That's.
I agree. So if you want a simple thought, I agree. I am rethinking myself because of the size of the pavilion for us grew exponentially. From our original discussion, it went originally from 16 feet wide to 29 because they put 8 feet around it for walking and for the pavilion. So the whole pavilion got larger, everything got larger. Now you all are adding to that. So I would say that we are all wider than we need to be.
So the pavilion concrete off the locomotive is gonna be 8 feet. Ready, is that what you?
no, right now it's only 5 feet.
No, the new one though. Cause she's saying the pavilion's
The,
different
what
size.
was presented to city council
Yeah.
that was approved from a footprint standpoint was 16 feet wide. It's 8 feet,
It's, what is it? 8 feet.
wait, sorry, let me read my notes real quick.
I would
It was
say-
29 feet. Oh, yeah, the
So
footprint
I
was
get this-
29 feet full by 54 feet, so your brown square, if you will,
That's what
should
that
be
is.
29 by
That's what it
54. That includes for us, and I'm sorry I don't have that spec on my cheat sheet here, but that includes 6 or 8 feet walk around. I don't believe
I
you
went
need
for
more.
your piece that you presented, I thought it said 5.
So we just would need clarification.
We'll double check that,
Yeah.
but it's,
It's, I know it's more than that, it's 6 or 8, and that could have changed in all fairness. When we're down here doing the site prep, and then we've got Lucas advising and contractors, and so that, 6 turning to 8 could have happened on site.
I like
Okay.
6 to 8 more than 10.
Yeah.
So let's,
Yes,
so
you don't
so
need
then we
10.
do that. So you're saying that underneath this pavilion will be all the concrete, will be 6 feet.
That's
Well,
correct.
The 6, right?
That's correct.
So the question is though, like the pavilion are the posts gonna be on the corners or the posts gonna be inward? I'm just wondering about
Posts are
sidewalk
the brown,
purposes.
the brown is the roof.
So you would still on that west side then need some type of sidewalk to get around, otherwise you're
Well,
gonna go.
No, you have walk
Yeah,
around inside,
this is the sidewalk that goes around.
you have walk around inside the post.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
know, I
there's a
understand
walk
what you're-
around
Okay.
under the pavilion.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's still
Yeah,
fluid. it will-
correct.
It's still.
Yeah, Yeah, I would, that was kind of my reason that was gonna be something I would say, if we've already accommodated for the walk around. I think to everybody's satisfaction, so I would say that you could eliminate
that.
more
So,
cement.
would you mind getting the number to me on what the locomotive is so I can show it correctly on the plan?
It's what I just said, 54 by 29.
That's the pavilion.
That is the footprint of the entire space of the land.
I know,
we are
I'm just
listing.
saying, but we might wanna show the actual size instead of, this is, I pulled this off some earlier drawing.
I'm not clear on what you're asking.
So you want the
for.
locomotive,
Yes, like how big is the footprint of the locomotive?
Yeah.
Okay, the locomotive is 40 feet long by 8 feet wide.
So you got 14 feet.
If you want, I mean, I don't,
21 feet.
Right.
With five. So there's 21 extra feet with five. Yeah. On either side. No.
yeah, give or
Yeah,
take.
'cause it's 8 foot.
So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Correct.
Yeah.
So let's, that's,
We won't plan on adding concrete.
yeah, you got, yeah.
21 extra feet.
So take into consideration that the locomotive is sitting on ballast, gravel. And so the cement then extends so you're not gonna have the locomotive sitting on a cement pad. So the 8 feet that we're talking about, the walk around.
Yeah. Okay.
Is accommodating
That's
the
perfect.
ADA.
Yeah.
Necessary, like we did all the homework on that, so that's how we came
So
up with 29.
We'll have our sidewalks then just come off their pavilion.
Yes.
Yeah, just come right.
Right.
So, yeah. So this is, I think, kind of functional, kind of aesthetic. I don't like just going like that. I think it's nicer to do something like this, but do we want to center it on the locomotive? But then you go across, then you have to go up too far, or should we leave it kind of like closer to the corner where you might be coming from?
We did talk about this a little bit, just because we didn't know how much city council needed from us, or you all needed from us, and we did look at it centered. I honestly don't remember why, but there was a small discussion on it, and we landed on center. But that's not something that I feel like we have to have input in. You all have a master plan, so you do what you prefer. Okay. We'll have to locate our interpretive signage accordingly if it's phase 2. So wherever we put it, now, with that said, even the AHA signage, I mean, I installed those myself. They can be moved. I mean, it wasn't a 20-minute install, but
So you're saying though that probably you need some signage by the locomotive.
we'll put some signage there, and if it needs to be moved for phase 2, or because we've added more along the interpretive walkway and the spacing, could be refined. Nothing that we're putting in there is in cement.
Is everyone comfortable with that? Reducing our concrete?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay, then, it's a 5-foot walk. I think that's pretty typical in a park. And do we want to add the pine trees to get them started? Or do you want to do that later down the road? I feel like there is this kind of gaping view at the house. And could be worthwhile.
I would add them just because we're probably gonna take those 5 trees out in phase 1. So that side of the park is gonna be empty-ish in comparison.
Okay, now's a good time.
I don't think we ever figured out the stairs.
No, we haven't gotten there yet. So, this was kind of the questionable, do we leave it for shade, or is it better just to have a nice clear view of the whole thing?
I don't want the board to make a decision on that because that's gonna involve you guys and other staff not here. So I don't, and my reasoning for that is I don't want the board to say, let's take out a tree, and then another department says, we're not taking out that tree.
Can the board make a recommendation?
Yeah, we can make a recommendation if we wanna see it go. I just don't want anyone to feel like that's gonna be a concrete thing.
I think, I guess, like when I'm thinking about that spot there, it's hard if there is still allowed parking there. Cause that, I think, just changes things. If we have a definitive of, yes, this is just handicap parking, or
Well, and another thing to consider is, I think, probably Lucas will have a tree spade here. So if we want to move it eventually, it'd probably be good to just,
That walkway also won't be going out as far now. So do we,
pardon me,
the walkway won't be going out as far now. So do we need to
This
remove those
walkway?
two? No, aren't they here?
I mean, the idea is the vision into the
Yeah,
park.
it's the vision. Yeah, it's being able to see the locomotive. And this is a tamarack. I don't know if you know those trees, they're kind of like. I never put one in the park, but.
I've just been told by our installer that that tree is likely to die, so I'm just gonna share that in your recommendation of relocating it.
Which one?
The one that you're talking about relocating, that was something I was gonna bring up. No,
That one right there.
the other, we're
Yeah,
looking
right,
at that one, yeah.
yeah.
So when you're talking about making your recommendation, I mean, I wasn't gonna make you move it, but we all felt like it was gonna die eventually.
If we do one, we should probably do both.
How they're gonna get that locomotive in there?
Well, there's.
That's easy, that's easy. It's truly
So
easy.
so
Don't
why-
even worry about it.
So why do they think that tree's gonna die then?
Because when you're the digging of the ground and getting the footings in, and then it's gonna grow, the roots are gonna grow. Pad,
Okay, so when you're building this building.
yeah, there's some better uses for that tree if you wanna read.
It's a healthy tree, so you're
Yeah.
not saying the tree was dead.
No, I'm just saying
You're
that
saying
you
it could be dead.
don't waste the tree.
Let's move them.
So your recommendation is spot on to what we had hoped.
Right now in phase 1, we have the pathway from the locomotive to the AHA. We've taken
Well, we
away,
got it to the stairs, we just.
well, we gotta talk about the stairs. Right now, we have the walkway to the locomotive to the AHA. We are reducing the footprint around the locomotive. We're taking away our 5 feet. And then we're removing the 5 trees on the side and planting in those new 4. And then we're removing the 2 down, 3 around locomotive to open up the site. So that's where we're at right now.
What about the hedges that go up the property line? No,
This is the garden.
all the way to
On the other side.
Denver's property line.
Those are,
No,
those hedges are his,
they're hydrangeas.
yeah.
Yeah, they're on our property.
Yeah.
But they have permission to leave their landscape.
They're his,
On the fence.
yeah, landscaping. Jamie Reed?
I don't know if
Those lines.
everybody has seen this.
We're not gonna, thank you.
Gonna get too far in the weeds on it. But this is kind of the plan scale that we're looking at. These are all native plants.
You're talking about this area, right?
Pollinator garden, yeah, those are all. Yeah, like up here and here. Yeah. So we're trying to keep it conceptual tonight, so.
So I think we should move on to the stairs. Cause that's a big portion of
Let's
this.
talk about the stairs. Yeah. So the stairs are 5 foot wide in keeping with the 5 foot wide blocks. If you flip to, I think it's page 3 in that handout, if you can share. Kat, do you have one?
No.
I brought 3.
You can look at this one, I've looked at that one.
When Janie can. So, we're envisioning, poured concrete, stairs. I like the idea of the cheap wall, which is this little wall that goes down the two sides that keeps it nice and neat where the lawn joins it. And then taking the pipe railing that's up on Main Street and run it right down the two sides. It's not fancy, but I think it kind of looks historic or something.
But why do we even need them?
Let's
The
leave it
stairs?
to the board to discuss.
Yeah.
Like, let the board
Yeah,
discuss.
So,
What are our thoughts?
I mean, I like the idea of steps, I feel like it's an underutilized park to begin with, it would bring more attention to the park. And then we heard from people last week too, that they like the idea.
I think I like the idea, but I'm not sold that they're necessary. I think it would be different if there was parking along Main Street there.
There are a couple
There's parking
spots.
along Main Street.
But not a lot.
Not a lot. but
You
there
can
are.
have all the way down.
There's not actually parking spots.
Yeah,
along
you can
Main
park
Street.
there.
It's just like street parking. You could park all the way down.
It's pretty. I mean, when you drive there, all of the people working on the Demers house right now are parked on the lawn because there's really not enough room to park there.
Well, there's also the neighborhoods down there and people that come down,
Right.
like the Wayman's were here
But we
last
don't
time.
really have the money
We do,
I mean, I don't know that
we do. I confirmed it. So if money wasn't a thing,
I'm not
do
sold
we
on
want the
stairs.
stairs? If money were not,
I think we should have the stairs. Provide a nice access to the park.
Well, and, you know, we don't know what Mr. Demmer is gonna think when he sees the plan, but,
that's.
you know,
that's-
initially.
That's
yeah.
not a discussion either. This is
No, I-
whether we want them or not. It doesn't matter the Denver's paying for them, doesn't matter if the city's paying for them. Do we want access from Main Street to Shea Park? That is the question.
I don't think that it has to be phase one.
Yeah, I say phase two.
But then my question is, where does that pathway go? It just stops.
Stops, a little turnaround.
Well,
I think it'd be phase one, my opinion.
Kristen has a comment. I would like to let her.
So I've been thinking about the path stopping, and I think we could work on some, some way to make it look intentional with the seating, maybe if it's just the placement of a bench with one more sign, something that gives a photo opportunity back to the Shea House with the AHA, or this way to the train. Like, I think there's a way to make the path stop organically until phase two takes it around the park. And then all I would say about the Main Street entrance is, I would just ask you to keep in mind that I call it a barrier, I don't call it a fence, because that same barrier is in front of the Shea House. And those two properties are on the historic register as one unit. And I would be devastated if you guys removed that barrier. It is from 1800s, it's original. And so I have no idea. I did drive down here and I apologize, I didn't drive slow enough that I got the answer. I was running a little behind and I was on the phone, and I meant to dare to see, does this require you to take down the barrier? Because I think that is worthy of a discussion. I am paying to repair the barrier on the adjacent land in front of the Shea House, because that is all Shea's original property and that's part of the historical corridor. So I would
I
just,
think it's a way to tie the two together.
yeah, so
It's
I mean,
functional, like, then maybe like some little old guy, falls and maybe it would give him something to grab before he went down.
yeah, it's just, if I call it a fence, then I get into all this permit stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if I take it apart or try to repair it, I have to go to different specifications. And I'm going to have to do that, we are going to have to do that as we go down Judd Street on the other side of the side entrance of the Shea House. And I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it and to do it well, like there's gonna have to be some cabling in between, the big wide gap is gonna have to be filled with cabling to meet the new code. So as soon as you start touching something, but again, don't call it a fence, because that opens up a whole can of worms. But as soon as I start repairing the barrier in front of the Shea House, you know, I would just be such a disappointment if we destroyed the barrier in front of Shea Park that
I like,
ties
I
the
don't know,
link
you
together.
guys have thoughts?
So I just say to keep that in mind, when you're thinking about access. And then, you know, if I had a vote, I would probably be in favor of doing a similar access point, but from the northwest corner instead of over by Demmer. I mean, we know what he doesn't want in what his idea, which kind of spurred the conversation. And I do think it's a fair question to ask right in that northwest corner when you come, the slope that's behind the AHA is, you know, that's where you're getting traffic that, you know, it's inevitable that kids want to roll down the hill or slide down it in the winter, and the AHA is spaced far enough away that, and now you're not interfering with the original barrier from the 1800s.
Well, all you'd be interfering with is just cutting 5 feet and then running pipe down the 2 sides of the stairs.
Yeah, and you
I
can
would
match the
argue-
pipe, because I'm gonna have to match the pipe, so if you need
Yeah.
help matching the pipe,
Yeah,
I've got that, I'm working on that right now, and I think I have it handled, but,
I
so
don't
it's a
think-
matter of history for me.
I don't think it's that great to come down into the AHA, into the back of the AHA. I think it's nicer to come in and have the whole view of the park, it's peaks of the lake.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, I don't mind that you have to walk a little further to the west to get there. I feel the same way about the Shea House. When you exit the Shea House property, you've got to walk a little east to get to the crosswalk.
Well, and I feel like the stairs are gonna service people that maybe are coming more from the east. If you're coming from this way, you probably just walk down the hill, right?
You want to think they do, but it's like me parking in the Shea parking lot. I still walk across the grass to get into the Blackford Museum. So you want to think that they'll walk down there to that sidewalk where the locomotive is, but they'll really just walk across the lawn. I mean, it's just human nature. I do it all day, every day, walk across the grass instead of going to the sidewalk. So anyway, I'm not strongly opposed. I just would prefer that we don't tamper with the historic barrier that's there.
Thoughts from the board on location?
And when we take this to a firm, they can show us images of both locations, or they could say neither location work. Engineers have a way of. having
I
different-
don't like tucking it way to the east. I just feel like it's nicer to have a view of the park instead of just looking down one corner. That'd be my thought.
The bigger question is, we don't even know if we want stairs off Main Street. So I don't think we can really talk about location until we decide if we even want them. So,
Did you say what you think, Scott?
I think it should be phase 2, and I think you should use the historical railing as part of it. And
Why phase 2? I'm just curious on.
we gotta see how much cement we put in first. And how,
agree.
how,
I
you
also
know,
think
the
that-
size of the locomotive, the metal, the cement.
I also think that it's worth talking about options for stairs that aren't concrete.
Like,
I think concrete is
wood?
going to, yeah, I mean, wood is an option and it would look more natural than a big concrete staircase.
To match what the other ideas are.
Yeah.
those are good.
Liability is always an issue. I know when we're doing these kinds of projects, like stairs, we don't want to put in stairs, somebody has to shovel them. And then when there's slip and fall in there, so I mean, I don't know if liability helps you decide on location or materials. Somebody else in the the organization could help you with that, but I know that we've got attorneys on our board that talk about liability every time we want to do
Stairs
something. So we put it in stairs, open it up, can of worms.
Take it to a vote.
And then if the conversation is in phase one and phase two, we take it to a vote, take it to a firm. See what they say. Doesn't mean we have to do it. It's all going to a firm.
So
Even if we put it in phase two, it's going to a firm. So
our two missing people can't vote. Have you talked to Maggie at all about what she might think?
no, she wouldn't, it wouldn't matter anyway. She's not here, so.
No, and Kieran has always been a less hardscape person.
Should we listen to public comment before we make the decision?
Yeah, I just don't see why we need it. I really don't. I see where most of the parking and people are coming from when they're downtown, they're at Marina Park or at their Ford Park. And they're down there walking around by the water and they're usually coming from that corner. And I just don't think it's necessary and I don't think we need any more hardscape. I worry there's a lot going on. And getting the AHA and the locomotion and getting that all together and then seeing, and you can have it all phased out by planner, but then seeing what you want, because there's a lot going on. With the gardens and then we have play area, just seems like a lot. Do we really need those stairs from Main Street?
Nancy?
Could they draw a plan without the stairs? And then one with the stair? I mean.
Yeah, they can draw.
Would that be?
Yeah, if we
it
go to
might-
a firm, they'll
It
draw.
might
their-
give you a better idea of what it
Yeah.
looks like. Maybe you want continuous trees on Main, or maybe you want this area in the center without trees so people can see it. People are gonna run down the hill anyway. Our kids always ran down that hill. They're growing up here. That's just how they got in the park. So I don't have a huge want or not want, doesn't matter what I want, but either way, I think the park will be used. I do think there's a fair amount of concrete. But if, in the final plan with the walk all the way around, the stairs, around the locomotive, I just think your green space is shrinking.
And we may never do that, you understand that, right? It's not phase two, it's more like a, just in case we considered everything.
Yeah, and I think you should have drawings both and see once you get going on it, what it looks like.
I would like to see access from the main street, but we could make that part of phase two rather than phase one.
Okay, I'd be all right with that, I guess.
I would just like to say that this is, I mean, you did a great job
Yeah.
of drawing this out. I was really impressed. I was glad I went to open up the packet and communicated with Rachel. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh, okay, because I agree with you. Curves are important. And interpretive signage will bring it all together. If you do some of the logging things that you suggested, it was just very thoughtfully planned out and great job. And we would be happy to help, help it come together cohesively and make sense. And I too would just say that there's a lot of freedom in leaving the green space, and that just feels good in a concrete town. So right now I'm not seeing the necessity for the stairs, but it's another phase. If it's another phase, I think then you can all decide how to use your money. Where the
Well, and if we-
community wants your money,
Rachel, I would like to suggest we, have Beckett and Rader draw it up two ways. One, I'll come up with an alternative, a way to end the walk. Take out the loop, take out the playground, take out the steps. Then the other way would be with the steps, hooking in. And then that way, when it's presented to council and Mr. Demmer has a look at it, he can, what we told him was that we would come up with what we think is best for parks, and then he can decide if he wants to help with implementation.
For me, the stairs are a want because I think that we already have so many things going on that we need, like the bathrooms, that if we can make this a smaller project to do what we have to do to tie in the locomotive and the AHA, then we can
I
add all
just
the rest of
saying
it later.
There's all for both. And then, Mr. Demmer had a chance to see that and he said, I do like these stairs. I'd like to pay for them. Then I would hate for us to have said, no, we don't want them, or we don't want them till phase 2 when, you know, we could get them done right now.
Can I have a clarification? So, sorry, Rachel, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, because I know you keep saying it doesn't matter, the Demmer thing, but Dean brought it up, so I'm not sure I'm clear. So is he, I understand that he's willing to help with some funding, possibly. Because I was at the meeting, I attended by Zoom. Is he only willing to help with the funding regarding a staircase, or we don't know?
He wants. I don't wanna quote him.
I know.
It seems that they want landscaping options or rights to that corner of the park. The stairs, I don't think mean anything.
Okay, so he's
It's
just
just
willing
the-
to help with funding in some
wants the
capacity,
landscape-
even if it's not a
So our,
staircase.
so our
to
answer
get
back,
Some money.
so our answer back was, we have to do this anyway at the planning commission.
Right,
We will create a plan with the
Okay.
parks one, and
okay,
then if you like it, great. And if you
if you wanna
don't
help
like
with
it, that's
funding,
unfortunate, but we're gonna
It
move forward
would be
anyway.
like a donation.
Yeah,
right,
that's why I say when we're talking about the stairs, it's, you gotta put funding aside,
right,
whether we want them or not. at the end
right,
of the day.
okay, so nobody's trying to make a plan that pleases Demmer. We're
No.
trying to make a plan that we like, he's
Yeah.
gonna see it and
Yeah.
maybe help donate
Correct.
to it.
Yeah.
Okay, cause he didn't to the local
Yeah,
level,
correct.
so go get it, guys.
So what we can do is
recording.
Anna can draw this out with some differences and maybe put in the stairs option on the corner and then no stairs. And then when we do pick a firm, I don't wanna say Beck and Raider, because when we pick a firm to do it, they can easily take out the stairs. That's like not a big deal to them. Put them where you want them, where our options would be, and then they can take them out. And then we can see all the options available to us. I feel like it'll be a very.
Wait, what are you
difficult-
talking about, the stairs? What do you want me to
they can
draw?
show it without the stairs, they can show it with it off to the center how you have it, but they could also show it in that corner. If we wanted
Does
to see.
anybody
what it
think
looks
they
like.
should be in the corner? I think this goes
Okay,
back
that's
to.
fine, I'm just saying, they can show the stairs wherever we want them,
I don't think
for
the
phase
corner
2,
Physically.
that's fine.
So
But is
do we
everyone
really-
open to the firm doing that? To the,
Yes.
I mean, it seems like everyone was at least open to them phase 1 or phase 2.
Yes.
So, which means it has to be in there, so. Do we wanna vote? That's up to you guys.
What are we voting on, Rachel?
If we want the stairs
No,
to be there at all.
I think we decided last time that stairs would be a good idea, but I don't know that we have to vote if it's phase 1 or phase 2.
No, we don't. I'm just saying if anyone doesn't want them at all,
I don't
then,
think that's,
yeah, that's what I'm getting
We
to.
just have consensus that we'd all like the stairs.
we'd all like to see what the stairs
Would look
would
like.
look like.
Okay.
Do you need to make a motion? Like,
No. And then,
Do we want, it wouldn't be a big deal for me to do one more drawing that takes out all the
Yeah,
extraneous stuff. with the
I think
roof
that
and the
needs to be
lighting.
taken out for
Okay.
visual. From our action.
And to
I just-
take off the walk around the pavilion, just to kind of simplify and light touch.
What was that, Sarah?
we have a lot of grass spaces, right? We've got a lot of our parks have a lot of grass spaces in them. I just maybe am more of a recreation person that like something to do within the park besides grass. I like the idea of if this is in the historic corridor, having some other pieces that are gonna bring more people to this underutilized park. It's not used for. And it's in a spot that's it's not connected to the water. It's not just be nice to be able to have some. I don't want to get rid of the idea of maybe something else besides.
Sarah's right.
the
People
two
aren't hanging out in
components.
this park. They're just not. They're coming to see the AHA, they're coming to the events that are there. I drive by it empty so many times a day. Can't even count. They're not hanging out in it. So I understand the need,
People take their dogs there.
yeah.
You got a good spot here. Right.
Saturday, yeah, events, things like that, but this allows for all of
So
that.
are you
so.
saying then, just leave a future place in there?
I like the idea of having even like a walkway, like
Mhm.
when I had younger kids that would like on their little tricycles, tool around, and it's in a place where I felt like, oh, that's okay for my kids to ride their bikes around in a loop like this, because not bikes, obviously, or little scooters or something along those lines. I can just, envision my dad, who's a history nerd, being so excited about being able to spend time in here. There's something for the grandkids to do if there was a place.
Yeah, I just have a question. When do you anticipate the locomotive being installed?
Spring 2025, so April, May.
Because people ask.
Yep, I reported it to.
Okay. Okay.
I think we touched on phase two, but does anyone have concerns or questions about phase two, which would be either the stair, we've talked about the stairs enough, let's move on. But the other side of the walking path of the park, the dumber side, if you will, a play structure, does anyone have any concerns or questions or things they would want removed in that aspect?
Is there a rule about 5 feet being the minimum size?
Yeah.
There is a rule, that's well. Okay.
And that's the thing with hardscape, and that's where you get, and do you want your parks to be ADA accessible, or do you want all the green space possible? Because sometimes, virtually, you can do both, but it's an art to fit those both in.
I would like to see them preserve as much green
Yeah.
space as possible.
Green spaces, playground.
I think I'm okay with everything. I think though that Bay Street should be put off till phase 3 or whenever they do
Yeah.
stuff with Bay Street.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna tear it. That's all.
Well, they're gonna tear it, they're gonna redo Ford Park, so the trailers aren't looping, so Jamie's right now, that's not the safest spot right now. So to add more commotion to there would probably be a waste of funds and efforts.
I also would hate to see those parking spots completely disappear, but I do think that making at least one of them handicapped, so across the street isn't parking there all day, every day, or making it 3 hour.
It'd be
A
nice
1 hour
accessibility to the park, if there was a handicap parking spot.
Right, but I mean, right now it's used by Irish employees all day, every day. So like a 1 hour limit or a 2 hour limit on those parking spots would at least get the employees to not park there.
I have one more thing that I want to put out there, which might solve a couple problems. They're playing anymore. So I thought this was a good spot because it's close, to everything. Another spot for this could be up here, and that could be a way to end the sidewalk. And that way you'd still have ADA to it. Like you wouldn't have to do all of this, if we're trying to minimize.
I think that seeing both would be good to look at the options.
Well, and this is a Kristen question. So is it best to highlight logging because of the locomotive? Because the other thing that happened in this park was the waterworks stuff.
Right.
And I looked through the playground catalog and we could do something really cool that would look like pipes and waterworks that would be, kind of a play thing and also kind of sculptural like art.
I think that that's more dynamic for the kids, because when we do shade days, we bring in logs and things. But you all,
Okay,
so yes, I would
so
I would
logs
lean
might be
toward the
better.
waterworks. The waterworks
would
have a
lean.
lot more impact on our community. Tim is a philanthropic and generous man who donated his 12 miles of piping to the city. Not donated, eventually sold. It took 40 years for them to come up with a deal. But he did sell his, plumbing to the city, which is why the city had water and fire safety. And so that is a more impactful story to tell for our community than walking.
Okay,
So I'll leave that.
you're a pretty good. Okay, so let's just plan on looking at alternatives next month. This is not gonna happen until spring. We don't have to be in a big rush to get to council, right?
And I'll send an updated email, won't be tomorrow morning, but Thursday with all these things listed. So if I miss something, just let me know.
Okay, is that enough on Shay? Any other thoughts? Okay. Should we move on then to boardwalk fundraising? Rachel, you want to kick that off?
Yeah, mine. Okay. It won't. Computer. We'll probably get started though. So boardwalk fundraising, so last time we met, we had some ideas for fundraising and
Yes, okay.
I did go back.
Oh, yes, okay.
Oh,
There.
sorry. I'll speak for blue. So the program and events committee met October 1st and we discussed programming, and events and, you know, if we wanted to add anything to 2025. And I was very clear with the committee that I didn't feel it was appropriate for the Parks Department to add any events or programs at this time while we're fundraising for the boardwalk and the wheelway. With that being said, I would like to not fundraise for the boardwalk and the wheelway anymore. And I would like the Parks Board or myself to go to council and tell them that we're not interested in doing it anymore. It's just not, I agree, Jamie brought up some really good points of putting it in tax bills. I did talk to Nick, so we are gonna do that. We're gonna do a mailer. And do like a last push, you know, for people with the boardwalk, but we're doing programs and events and they're going great, you know, and I don't know where our department's going. Putting a lot of effort into this fundraising. And I guess my question to the board is, which way are we turning? Because we can't do both correctly and really well. And I don't want to have to do either one of them. I'd like to fully commit.
I wonder if Sarah could talk about what her dad.
Yeah. So my dad's a
Yeah.
retired Parks and Recreation Director, or he was Parks and Recreation Director for a while. He shifted to working with schools, but still did a lot, has been on boards and such. And I was talking, he was asking what this committee was doing, and I brought up, I'm like, you know, Rachel's got these really great ideas, but in the meantime, she can't do those ideas because she's raising $1.6 million. She's fundraising $1.6 million on these two projects. So the time that she's taking to do that is taking away from all of these other, like making our parks look like really nice and cleaned up, and to be able to, you know, plan for the future and to be able to implement some other programs, which when we look at our surveys is what more people are asking for in our community. And so it seems like these are capital improvement projects that should not be a park director's responsibility. And if council and if the community wants these projects, then that should be a take it to the vote. Do we do a bond?
Millage,
Do it be a millage? Is it something along those lines versus trying to go back to the community and saying, hey, give us $1.6 million to do these projects. If we want these as a community, then we should put back on a millage or a bond to do it versus you trying to fundraise. That's not the main goal of a parks director.
Well, then,
In my opinion.
then the community is able to vote, and their vote will say, yes, we want it, or no, we don't want it.
It's not saying the projects aren't important. You know, I would love to see the boardwalk is finished as much as the next person. It feels, you know, like we've talked about doing both sides forever. And I spoke to Jamie about it. She feels strongly that that's the way I do. It'd be great to see it completed. But it's department, well, now it's department of two people. And it's not practical and it's not correct. Cities don't fundraise for all their CIP projects. It's not best practice. It's not how it works. And it doesn't work like that for a reason.
And if we keep going to the community saying, give us money for these projects, then when you say, hey, we'd like a picnic table, or we'd like to buy a limbo set for this event, or, you know, we'd like a popcorn popper, you know, it's hard to
The
continue to
welcome mat
ask
is getting worn out.
money
Yeah.
when we've already asked for money for all of these other, as a parks department, all these other reasons.
So I think that we don't need to, but someone needs to start a 501 C3 or donations for the parks projects. And it's not the city's job to do that. It has to be an outside board.
And that would
Because-
be a Friends of the Parks
Yeah,
board.
because then the people donating large amounts of money get a tax advantage. Whereas when they donate it to the city, they don't get the same tax advantage.
I think they do.
It's on our master plan to start a Parks Foundation. There's a whole bunch of things on our Parks Master Plan about fundraising and what our goals were
Well,
at
we
one
put
time.
that in for one of our projects for
I think
next year.
we should explore.
And
Before
then-
we
I talked to
make any
Rick,
decisions, I think we need to look at what our master plan says about fundraising.
Rachel and I had a brief conversation about, seeing if Nick would like to come talk to us about like, what is a bond? How does that work? What are the pros and cons? What is a, millage? Like 1.6 million, as you said, you know, what would that cost taxpayers?
Ultimately, that'll be a council decision, because council deals with the budget, not Parks and Recreation Board. So I want to clarify that the Parks Board is.
And I'm just saying, wouldn't we take it back to
Yes.
council? So if we understood what those things are, I don't
Bond,
think it'd be so
I'm
bad if we.
assuming that council's gonna do a bond for the substation, would be
Yes.
my assumption. So bond is not likely. The police millage pass, parks would be the next most likely millage to pass. A lot of communities have them. And they sometimes feel sometimes they don't, and $500,000, I can't remember what Nick gave the figure of, but I did speak to him today about it. But I think for a future meeting, not the next meeting, we need to bring options for us, whether it's a Friends of the Parks group and there's another board that controls fundraising, or we go for a millage, which I personally think is the best option. And then we go to council, but if the Parks Board isn't going to do it, I'm gonna go to council and tell them that we're no longer actively fundraising for those things. We're gonna send out a mailer, we're gonna do those things, we're still gonna support those projects. But like events and things like that and keeping track of everything isn't going to be realistic.
How does everybody feel about that?
Good.
Think if we make that effort and then you have a reason to say this is why. I think that that makes sense.
So
Reason
then,
being
so then
what?
it wouldn't be to us, it'd be to council to look into a parks millage, or should we understand a little more about it? And we
That would
can
be Victor and
recommend?
Nick's meeting and discussing,
Some of
yeah,
this
yeah.
would be staff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like, the budget is always staff, so none of that likely will come to the Parks Board. I mean, we might bring options, but the actual decision making won't be like the parks or even a
No,
recommendation.
definitely
But
not.
all I'm saying today is, your Parks Director is done fundraising for a moment, that's all. And I just want to make sure I have,
We have so many
the
great
support.
projects, that this just really knocks us off, you know, what we should be doing.
What you do does need to line up, Jamie said, with your
yeah,
master,
master plan.
with your master plan.
Yeah.
I think we should,
You
Maybe-
need to look at that,
we should
Because
take
we-
a moment to look at
Yeah.
what master plan says about fundraising.
because I believe council, didn't we okay the master plan?
Yeah, and it goes through 2027, I think.
Yeah.
So we can always
amend it.
take some of those aspects out the next time we do it, but I
Or you
think we
could
should
probably
relook at that.
amend it, but then it would have to come to council to be.
Fundraising though for smaller projects is different than fundraising for CIPs. Fundraising can be a lot of things, like, and I'll look at our master plan, see specifically what it
See
says.
what it says.
Right.
Fundraising
Fundraising
for
for-
a foundation is one of them.
Yeah, right, and that's different, like, that's a whole other group taking over fundraising, that's not the Parks Department
Right.
doing it. Fundraising for a picnic table is a lot different than fundraising for $1 million wheelway, like that.
Infrastructure project, and I'm
Right.
not so sure it belongs in your bailiwick. I think it belongs
Thank
somewhere
you.
else, so.
Like, I guess, you know, the trail systems, you know, fall more in our bailiwick. And we've talked about the boardwalk having other aspects that could be promoted, like a walk down history, and it's
Right.
almost becoming a destination in its own, you know, fitness.
And if you speak to Nick or Victor and it ends up being, but then you're pushing the millage. That's a totally different concept. You're pushing a millage. You're not pushing one project. Or you're pushing your CIPs in general with the millage, and that's different. There's still work, but that's,
Can we have Victor and Nick come and talk to us about all this?
Let me talk to him first. And then we'll, yeah, in a little more detail.
Yeah.
So, but everyone is comfortable with that, just
Yeah.
slowing down on the fundraising efforts. We're not like putting the projects out to dry or anything.
The opportunity cost. if you
And I'd
make-
still like to be on the Harbor Way Committee. I think it's really important as we move forward. It's just Parks Board, that shouldn't be our role right now.
Totally agree.
Okay, let's see, any thoughts from the public on that?
Yeah, I mean, Rachel knows, our channels.
Parks Director report.
We've hired Nathan Sterling as our park maintenance position. We welcome him to our team. We had a really great pool of applicants. We did about 4 or 5 interviews and they were all excellent. It's really nice to know that when we do put out jobs like this, for the city, whether parks or otherwise, that we have really great people to choose from. So that felt really good.
And doesn't Nate live in town?
He does. Yeah, he's just building a house on the corner of Harbor and Lake.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
there's a
And
town
3 of them were local.
birthday.
Yeah, they live within the city limits, so that was cool too.
And he will do a wonderful job. He's very approachable and he's a very hardworking guy.
Park updates, 3 trees were planted in Harborview Park during Arbor Fest. On September 14th, 1 elm and 2 black gum trees.
And does he know to keep the water bags full?
Yes. And then DPW has removed the dead pine trees along the pickleball fence line. We will plant trees to replace.
That comes from the park.
Just want to make a comment,
Yeah.
and then if that's okay, when we talk about replacing these trees, I don't want to give up on the idea of a possible pavilion or picnic area.
Yeah, they won't go in that
Keeping
line.
that lines, but that has to happen, but at least keep.
Is the gate still scheduled for between the pickleball courts?
We do have a solution. I spoke to Nate about that actually yesterday.
All right.
And then City Hall and Marina restrooms will remain open for the off season. All others will be closed this month. I don't want to give exact dates, so I'm not sure. Programming updates, the Program and Events Committee discussed their October 1st meeting, having an alternative due to weather for a sledding and s'mores event. We will work with the school for gym and or pool use. The committee also discussed an end of the year school bash at the skate park for the last day of school. And then those are the sledding and s'more dates that have been confirmed. I think we decided to keep the same time.
Right.
Excellent.
Out of curiosity, sorry, do you know when is Ice Fest the 8th or is it the weekend before?
I don't know.
15th or something
Yeah,
like
it's usually 15, but for some reason I
Oh,
thought they were
it is.
changing it due to
Yeah.
President's Day,
Okay.
but I don't know.
I guess I was more looking for, do you try to complement those? Do you try to do different weekends or the same weekend?
So I think we've done both and we get about the same turnout
Okay.
no matter what. Some people, I guess I look at it like if my children are bundled up, we're doing all the things outside because you're bundled up and ready to go, but
It was like Ice Fest, more of a day activity.
Yeah.
We did it more of an evening.
Yeah.
It's dark at home.
yeah.
Okay.
The same.
'Cause I always.
Yeah, I felt that as well.
During Ice Fest, we try to plan the indoor hot chocolate activity.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're sledding, then they come, or if it's too miserable
Yeah.
for sledding, we have good turnout, or, so I
What
was.
we did sledding was during the day and we
Yeah.
moved them all to 4 to 6 to make it like under the lights kind of.
Gotcha, okay. That's right, I
It's
do
on
remember
Saturday
that, I do
afternoons.
remember that, now that you say that, and you changed your time.
Rich, I'm just curious if for a future meeting, if you could add an update on the township's responses to sharing funding for parks.
Checking with Nick, we're supposed to set up a meeting with them. I think he was waiting till the election, because then if a decision's made, it could be totally different people in November, so.
Don't want it to.
But yeah, no, I will check in with them, yeah.
And then Rachel's working on an article for, the park corner.
Yeah.
The survey.
I'm supposed to do that last month.
It's a busy month.
Anything else?
Next meeting, November 12th.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you.